What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome. What is going on? Welcome to another edition of what the hell is this called again? Matchup points. My bad here. What is going on? I'm John Hansen. Brett Whitefield. I'm all screwed up here. We're a little one man down. Graham Barfield just lost his power at the last minute here. But we are ready to rock and roll. Our guy Tommy T-Bone on the other side. And it's week 11, Brett. Are you ready to rock and roll? Great way to start it in Philadelphia. It's going to be a great game. I almost want to forget about fantasy tonight's game, by the way, and just actually watch it as a football fan. But what's up with you?
Yeah, I feel like this is a great Thursday night game. Like I feel like this year we've actually gotten some decent ones, and then this one's a great one. So, hey, man, I love it. This just give me. It's rare I get to sit down and just watch a game start to finish without being too concerned about work. So when there's only one game going on, I'm not too worried about charting everything in the moment. You know, I can kind of relax, kick my feet up, maybe grab a little bourbon or something, and then I'll take in the game and have fun.
Ooh. All right. Well, I got all messed up there at the top because I'm trying to freaking tweet and host at the same time. Apparently, I cannot do that. Well, let's get into it. You know, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities here, Brett. I mean, both defenses coming in here. I mean, off the top of your head, I feel like both defenses are like top 6 defenses in this league right now.
I'll say pass defense for sure. I'm still weary of the Washington run defense. And I think that's probably where Philadelphia wins, you know,
for sure.
Really exploit. But yeah, for sure. Pass defense. You know, Dan Quinn's got these guys in the Washington secondary playing awesome, like no names, legit rookies, and you know, guys that were basically almost run out of town last year. So this is really cool. They've switched to a more man-heavy scheme, of course, but I think Hurts has potential to win against man at a pretty high level with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But, to your point, though, these guys are balling right now.
Bopping around just a little, but also, like, if there is one deficiency for the Eagle defense right now, it would also be probably their run defense. Brian Robinson back in the saddle. Like, you know, I was looking at his prop. It was like, I forgot what it was, 52 or something. I'm like, I could see it here. Any thoughts there as, you know, DC, I'm sure they're going to look to run the rock here early on, especially.
Yeah, so the Eagles' run defense was horrible to start the season. I think weeks 1 through 5, they were just brutal. I do think they've tightened it up a little bit. Some of that is game script, though. I know they've had a couple games where they've got out into leads early on and kind of taken the run game out that way. I don't suspect that will happen tonight, right? This should be a competitive game. So I think as long as Washington is in it and not in predictable pass situations, they should be able to run the football pretty well.
Of course, really the two matchups for Philly, obviously it's Brown and Barkley, as you mentioned. DC's run defense, a little sus. But what about A.J. Brown? Looks like he's in line to replicate what like George Pickens did in this matchup with a lot of single high and all that.
Yeah, and A.J. Brown is a far superior player to George Pickens, right? So he's probably going to draw a lot of the rookie Mike Sanders still. And we love Mike. Mike was a great player in this draft, but man, this is a tough task for any rookie, let alone an undersized, like Mike Sanders was tiny, 5'9", 190, like, and he's going to line up, go mano-a-mano against the alpha A.J. Brown. I doubt that's going to be a good matchup for them, so I would expect the Eagles to jump on this early and often.
I mean, there's got to be, you know, he's got to get some help here and there and things like that. Like, it's going to open up other opportunities. I feel like he's going to be a little bit of a marked man. We all know babies being born today know that A.J. Brown has a really good matchup. So is there anybody else here? Like, I'm looking at maybe Goddard and then Skinny Batman. You know, he's a little weird in that, like, he's not getting a lot of targets. I see he's done okay against man this year, but yeah, I couldn't really find a strong angle to get behind Devontae.
Yeah, the angle is, if you're really looking, is that A.J. Brown probably will draw some help. That hasn't stopped A.J. Brown in the past, though. I think anytime you see man, you want to get the ball to A.J. Brown. But yeah, if they do decide to roll some extra coverage over to AJ, then you would expect Devontae to get those favorable one-on-ones. One thing I have noticed, though, on tape that Kellen Moore is doing a lot, and he's always excelled at this, is getting his guys in good one-on-one scenarios. So you might see Devontae ISO'd up a lot on the backside. So they'll go like a 3-by-1, and on that one side, that ISO receiver, you're going to see Devontae out there a little bit and give him some opportunities to go catch a ball on the boundary, kind of George Pickens style, where it's more contested back shoulder type stuff. This is the way they've been trying to get him ISO'd up lately. So I think that's definitely a possibility.
Absolutely. And I, as a Devontae Smith owner, I know exactly what you're talking about. He's had a couple of games where it's like, where the hell is he? Then he catches a 50-yarder.
Yep,
something like that. Exactly, right. And we do have a total here approaching 50. And I'm not going on the Johnny Wilson train just yet here, but what stands out to you now as we look at Jayden Daniels and that passing attack, and McLaurin, Philly, Slay and Mitchell, they're looking pretty good. DeJean they're tight, man. They could maybe man up too tonight.
Yeah, DeJean has really kind of unlocked that secondary, having a big kind of, I guess, he reminds me of Brian Branch a little bit in Detroit, where he can come play man coverage in the slot, or he's big enough to body up tight ends. He can play the run. Really good addition there. And so I think the thing to watch tonight is that Philadelphia likes to play off. They like to keep everything in front of them. And Washington attacks a very opposite way of that. They like to throw downfield. They like to get, early in the season, it was a bunch of dink and dunk stuff, but as the season's developed a little bit, Jayden's been more comfortable pushing the ball downfield. So it'll be interesting to see what gives. Like, are the Commanders going to stick with that downfield vertical approach, or are they going to go back to getting the ball out in time, trying to avoid that Eagles pass rush, things of that nature? McLaurin's been awesome, though. Like, he is dominating right now. Like, all pro watch for sure. Probably a career year for him.
Do you think Daniels is not running as much lately because, he's still healing, or is it maybe because like an edict's been handed down, like, dude, like, last resort run, like, try your best here to not freaking run?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. He's probably tender ribs. Those rib injuries take a long time to heal, man. But at the same time, we've seen especially like think about the Anthony Richardson situation. He's a big dude. He got hurt one time scrambling last year. It cost him the rest of the season with the concussion and shoulder injury. And then now it seems like they're just very reluctant to run him. I'm guessing Jayden Daniels and hit the coaching staff there. They're reluctant to get him on the design QB stuff, because he was running more than 10 times a game to start the year, and it's been nothing. I think he had 3 carries for 5 yards the other day. So you would imagine hopefully as that heals up, he's going to get a little bit more comfortable running again. But man, for now, he's kind of seems like a pocket passer.
By the way, real quick, I know I'm bouncing all over the place, off to a train wreck start here, but we'll get better on this. Jalen Hurts, I must admit, I was thinking panic button about 5 weeks ago, but he's clearly turned the corner. He's clearly settled into a comfort level. I feel like he's seen the field. I mean, his downfield accuracy, and he's running faster. Am I crazy the last few weeks?
You are not crazy. Gosh, I just said this on the morning show with Joe and the guys the other day. Jalen Hurts' last 5 games, 4th in highly accurate throw rate, 57.3%, 6th in catchable ball rate, 1st in hero throw rate. And that coming back is a big deal. These are those jaw-dropping plays downfield you're talking about. He ranks 1st in the last 5 games in those. And he's 2nd in rushing yards among QBs. He has the 8 touchdowns. And when you take away the tush-push plays, that's really killing his yards per carry. He's up around 7 yards per carry again once you take away tush push, which that is he was like 3 yards a carry last year on non-tush push plays. So like he has really got this back. Like this is I really do wonder if maybe having to go a long stretch without Devontae Smith and AJ Brown fixed him, because he was forced. He didn't have guys to rely on, where he just was playing YOLO ball. He had to get through his progressions. He had to work the reads correctly. It was the only way they were moving the ball. And now that he's got him back, he's still playing QB the right way. He looks like vintage Jalen Hurts at the top of his game.
Yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. Green Bay at Chicago here on the Week 11 edition of Matchup Points on FantasyPoints.com. And if you're not liking and subscribing and all that stuff, we need to keep pumping up that YouTube channel, baby. That's going to hook us up, help us out, help us stay strong and get stronger and all that good stuff. Green Bay, Chicago, Brett. Well, I guess let's just go to Caleb Williams. I don't think you'll say that anything is going to improve measurably. Obviously, with Shane Waldron let go, I don't think how much can the new dude there, Brown, kind of midstream fix it. But I mean, do you have any thoughts on how much of the issue is Williams versus the system where, guys just aren't open, things like that? Like your thoughts on where we are now and, how much better can we possibly get?
Yeah, so I'm certainly not going to let Shane Waldron off the hook for what has transpired in Chicago. It's been bad. Play designs aren't great. However, I can't also let Caleb Williams off the hook. It's been bad, man. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
He's playing exactly how he did at USC, holding the ball
Right.
too long. He's trying to invent things. He's inviting chaos into his life. He is. I wrote in his prospect profile, he's allergic to running the offense the way it's supposed to be run, and that's been true so
Right.
far. He by far leads the league in sacks that we attribute to the quarterback. So these are sacks that are his fault specifically, not his offensive line. Now, sure, there are plays on tape where you see a left tackle get beat really quickly and, it gets messy. But for the most part, Caleb is inviting this into his life. This is not an O-line issue at large. It's a Caleb Williams issue. So I don't think Brown comes in and does anything special to help this. You look at what he did with Bryce Young last year. Bryce Young's sack numbers weren't great. The time to throw was astronomical. He wasn't seeing the field. Right. The offense was stale. So I don't know. It's messy though, man. I don't love this for Caleb.
So it's not a question of where oftentimes he's holding on to the ball because no one's open.
No, I don't think so. I think the average separation scores bear that out. I think there's times where DJ's been hot. There's times where O'Dunes has been hot, and Keenan Allen still looks great on the short stuff. I don't. Sure. He is probably running a few too many deep routes. I'm not sure what they're thinking with that, but on the short stuff, the in rhythm stuff, like. Caleb's just not finding him. He's open. He's there.
Yeah, it's brutal then because you have 4 really good receivers, including the tight end, and you have enough production to go around for about 1.5 really good receivers. Basically, it kind of renders everything kind of worthless. And then Swift is kind of like, I guess their only chance, but he doesn't do as well, by the way, when they're playing from behind. I guess he's hanging in there for Green Bay. What Jordan Love back at practice, like it looks like he is a quick healer, presumably, close to 100%. It's been kind of a nightmare year. I feel like some of these interceptions he's thrown have been because he's just plain hurt. You know what I mean? Like not himself, but very zone heavy are the Bears, which looks good for Jayden Reed and maybe a little Tucker Kraft. And good luck figuring out the other receivers. Any thoughts here on Green Bay's offense? And they'll run it a lot with Jacobs and maybe Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah. So I got thoughts all over the place. Let's start with Jordan. You're right. He's hurt. He has this tendency of playing hero ball. We saw this the first 10 games last year where we were really unsure if Jordan Love was the answer for Green Bay. And then all of a sudden you kicked it into high gear and looked amazing. I think you're just seeing some of those tendencies come back this year. I think the rotating receiver cast, while on paper, I think we can get excited like, oh, wow, they're so deep. Yeah, but also doesn't have rhythm with these guys because they're rotating.
You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I think they need to find their top 3 and they need to play 3 guys. That's honestly what they need to do.
Yeah.
And then this is Tucker Kraft game to me. Last 5 weeks, Chicago Bears have given up 12.5 yards per attempt to inline targets. Tucker Kraft is averaging over 11 yards per target when Jordan Love's at quarterback. And then against zone coverage, the Bears run like 3/4 of the time. Kraft sees a target share up, over 15%. The last few weeks, that's gotten into the 20s as well. So he's kind of been the number 2 option against zone recently. And he just looks awesome too. Can we say that? Like not necessarily from a separation standpoint, but his ability after the catch, reliable hands, always making the plays when his number is called. Really like Tucker Kraft this week.
So you're saying if you need fantasy points at tight end to dial up Kraft services, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, heck yeah. Kraft services, get yourself some snacks.
Was that Thomas popping in there? Could have sworn I heard him. Maybe something bled through. Maybe it's the voices in my head. Who knows? What else do we have here? I mean, Jacobs. What do you think about Lloyd? Yeah, we've seen nothing from Lloyd here in Green Bay. So
it's potentially his first game active, right? Because he's been hurt since training camp.
Yeah.
I don't. I wouldn't until I see it on tape and him being part of the offense. I wouldn't even consider him as being a guy here right now. Jacobs
absolutely
has looked awesome at times. And Chicago's run defense, we've kind of been picking on them. They started hot, right, John? And then the last few weeks, you and I on the Wiesen show, we've been picking on them a little bit, and we've been right. So their run defense has been in shambles the last 5 weeks. they're really missing Jaquan Brisker, and I know he went on IR today. Hopefully he heals up soon. That was a brutal hit from back in week 5. I think that's part of why they're giving up so many points at tight ends, because they don't have Brisker, and it's also why they're struggling against the run, because he was their run game mismatch weapon, where he was coming down from that safety spot, really defending the edges well and filling those gaps, playing the D gap extremely well. So they are very much missing him, and I think until he comes back, they're going to continue to stink defending the run.
Let me tell you that Emmanuel Wilson's not bad either, man.
Yeah, he's got a little pop to him.
He is not bad. He is not bad. Let's move on to next game up. Jacksonville, your Lions. All right, well, the floor is yours. I mean, they could literally beat the shit out of them a number of ways. Well, maybe not with Samuel Laporta, but it sure feels like they're going to come out and maybe make a big play to Jameson, sling. It'll be pitch and catch to Amon-Ra. Then they'll just pound him into submission with the running game in the second half. My biggest fear for Jahmyr Gibbs is, I mean, they're going to need him. What do you think about Detroit this week?
Yeah, so, man, this is, what's the phrase you always say? Play him if you got him. This is a play him if you got him game for Detroit's offense.
Right.
If you're looking
start
for
him if you got him.
Yeah, start him if you got him. That's right. If you're looking for one specific angle, I'll give you Amon-Ra St. Brown. Go figure, the best player on the team. However, Jacksonville, they rank 3rd in yards per attempt allowed as a pass defense. They've given up a league-high passer rating of 106.2. And specifically, they're getting torched by good slot players. So against they've played 5 players this season that rank top 10 in ass that also have heavy slot roles. So a guy like Amon-Ra, who plays a lot in the slot, they've given up 7 catches for 93 yards, 8 for 117 and a tutty, 10 for 90 and 2 tutties, 11 for 126 and 2 tutties, 8 for 80 and a tutty. All these slot heavy guys. So that's an average of 9 catches, 101 yards, and 1.2 TDs. I feel like this is an Amon-Ra week. I know Thomas and I were talking pre-show. He's kind of had like a down year so far. The efficiency numbers are still great, right? But
he's been still awesome, though.
Yeah.
No one's blaming him for anything, but I'm sure.
It's tough when you're beating teams by 30 every week. It's hard to get volume, right? So, but this is
a week. Scores. Yeah. You see scores.
8 total touchdowns on the season. But this is a week where I think he could have a big yardage total for the first time this season. Something, well north of 100 yards.
Does ETN have any chance here? I mean, I kind of think he might. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, but it doesn't look good for Tank Bigsby here. So why can't ETN come through with like 4 or 5 grabs and I don't know.
That's where he's going to have to bust.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the past game. Did you see what the Lions did to Mixon last week? I think Mixon had 25 carries for less than 50 yards. I mean, it was
true. Yeah.
Showing. And that's the Lions run. Their Lions run defense has been great for 2 years. It got a little leaky for a couple weeks here when they were down all of their edge defenders. They were down Aiden, down Paschal. Now they've got Pascal back, and then Za'Darius joining the squad this week. So that run defense looked back to being great. It was one of the most dominant run defense performances I've ever seen last week, actually. So
yeah. Now I will say that's against a lot of zone concepts, aren't they? A little sus against man.
Yeah, the duo run. I think
Detroit.
Aaron Jones long tutty this year was on a duo run. So that's true. They're they've been leaky against those duo concepts that are hitting like the C gap for sure.
Right. So I feel like maybe he has a chance, although he's been dead. But if Tank Bigsby isn't around, like, come on, man, you got to utilize this guy. Yeah, give him the volume, maybe 1 pops, and then, you will be getting your asses kicked. So throw him the ball and all that. I don't even know how we grade McCorkle Jones from last week. I mean, and Brian Thomas, gee, what do you do with him? I mean, this Lions defense, it's mostly bad. I already wrote it up a little bit. Well, he's not great against man, number 1. But what do you think about Brian Thomas?
Yeah, this is a tough matchup. The Lions have given up some big plays downfield because they play so much man coverage. It's like, but the thing is, they contest literally everything. They lead the NFL in forcing completions by a lot because they play so much man, because they got sticky man corners. Unfortunately, for a lot of these alpha receivers, man, their biggest plays of the day are on penalties. Terrion Arnold with a 30-yard DPI or something like that. The Lions play so aggressively, and unfortunately, you don't get fantasy points for that. So, man, I really do think that this is going to be a tough day for for the Jacksonville passing offense, but we'll see. Brian Thomas would be the one guy I'm excited about.
There is some data on Ingram, but he's been hard to back. Ingram actually does well against man, and Detroit doesn't have a great pass rush. He does well when the quarterback's not pressured. I mean, who doesn't? But so I guess there's. But Dave's going to eat here. By the way, I think, even though the splits aren't as dramatic as you'd think, like it's not like Dave's getting all this volume late in games, but he does get a little tick up there, right? So I mean, both Gibbs and Montgomery are just money this week, I would think.
Yeah, especially if the Lions get out to the lead. The bold take I put on my show was that this would be the final straw for Peterson. I think he's fired come Tuesday.
I thought last week was might do it, actually.
Yeah, and if the Lions beat him by like say 20 points or more, I think the spread's 13.5. Let's say the Lions beat him by 14. I think that would be enough to get it done. I think maybe Peterson doesn't make it to Tuesday. But yeah, if this game is getting out of hand, this is going to be the Monty Gibbs show in the second half here. So good, have fun with that.
You can almost, honestly, I hate not to be weird, but you can almost see it on his face, Doug's, the last like 2-3 games. Like you can see it. Like honestly,
you can hear it in his voice in his press conferences.
Yeah. I'm not even hearing that. I'm reading his face and his body line. I'm like, yeah, that's dead man walking right there, and he knows it. LV Raiders at Miami. I mean, what do you make of Tyreek? It sure does seem a little weird. It's like, you mean to tell me that Mike McDaniel's offense is going to break out in 2022, but it's going to take till 2024 till defenses kind of figure it out, which they seemingly have? I mean, it's looking at, I'm not a big film guy, as you know, but looking at just some of the aerial shots live during the game or some replays, like, man, they were just clogging up every lane for Tyreek. It seemed like, is there some sort of cheat code now to breaking this offense?
I think early in the Mike McDaniel progression, teams were terrified of playing man against them. It's like, oh, Waddle and Tyreek can both run. We play man. We're risking getting beat. Here's the thing, and I think teams have figured this out. You're going to play man coverage and plaster and be sticky. Tua does not trust himself fitting the ball into tight windows. Flat out. He's going to hold the ball too long. He's going to end up checking it down. You get, the backs and Johnny more involved, and he's not taking those deep shots like he used to. So I do think teams have figured out a little bit. Like Jacksonville started it this year in week 1. They played 71% cover 1 against Miami in week 1, and it worked.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, whoa, why would they do that? And it worked. And I think people are, it's a copycat league, right? So people are kind of, they're upticking their man coverage rates against Miami for the whole season, basically.
Well, I mean, do the Raiders have any chance of doing all that stuff this week? And Tyreek, I mean, I don't know, man. It does seem off, man. It's just some weird ass energy with Tyreek right now. I know they said today that his wrist is not affecting his play. Yes,
our guy Scott Barrett actually sent me something where, if you listen to all Tyreek's words last year, it was like, I'm the man. I'm going to go get 2,000 yards. No one can stop me. And this year, he's like, I don't really care. Jalen Waddle's the guy. He's the focal point of our offense. And it's like, what happened to the alpha dog Tyreek? Where'd he go? So very strange. You're right there. The vibes are super off. Other than that, I don't have a ton on this game. I will say the Raiders play at their top 10 in man coverage rate naturally. So I think you're going to naturally see more man coverage this week for against Miami, whether it works or not.
Don't tell me, by the way, my least favorite thing in sports is front runners. Don't tell me Tyreek's a front runner. I mean, he did enter. He did enter the league with the Kansas City Chiefs. In fact, I tell the story. It's mildly interesting. I had Travis Kelce on my SiriusXM show the summer Tyreek's rookie year, and I put him on the spot. I'm like, all right, bro, give me a sleeper no one's talking about. He's like, oh, easy, Tyreek Hill. And I was like, damn, called it. But guess that's easy, right? I mean, if you're at practice, you're like, hey, this guy's unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, he didn't have the trouble pass he did. He would have gotten drafted higher than the 5th round, obviously. But
Totally. Yeah, honestly, I had heard of him, but there really wasn't a huge buzz. That was a little weird that year. I don't know if people were just waiting.
Like he was a running back, like 70% of his reps at Missouri or whatever. So I think had he played receiver his whole college career, we would have saw what he could do, and it just wasn't the case.
I mean, there's not much to break down with the Raiders offense. I do think they're going to try and get Zamir White going a little bit. I mean, right? I mean, hello, they committed to, believe it or not, Zamir White last year, and they won 3 of 4 games where they were rolling a little bit. Or is that just a lost cause?
I don't know what Zamir White did to this coaching staff. They seem to not like him anymore. I don't know.
I thought they loved him.
Right. And you're talking to a guy. I've never been a Zamir guy. I actually predicted Madison would basically be a 1B in that offense, and I've been mostly right. Some of that's because Zamir was banged up, obviously, but
sure.
It seems like it's a 50-50 right now. I don't know. Zamir's a much better runner than Madison, though. I will say that. Madison's just a better overall player, better in pass pro, better receiver, a little bit better on gap concepts probably than Zamir. So, but man, I don't know. This is tough.
I don't have any feel yet, at least for like Brock Bowers. I feel like we might need to kind of. I know they're coming off a bye. Like, I'm not sure where we are with Brock Bowers. You know what I mean? Like, the dominant Brock Bowers from September. I don't know about that. Like, I don't know if we're going to see that again. Any thoughts there on Brock?
Yeah,
not all his fault.
I'll give you my tape analysis. Not really separating well. For as much as we love Brock and we think he's the future tight end in fantasy, he's not separating very well. Like the route running, it doesn't look it doesn't look where it needs to be. And so he's relying heavily on yak and design target, which is no surprise. That's what he was great at Georgia too. So that shouldn't shock anybody, right? But you would expect him to be a little bit more developed, considering his athletic profile and his frame and everything he did in college. You think he'd be a little bit better. It also doesn't help, John, that they have no receiving talent. Like Jacoby Myers is a fine number 2 or 3, but he is not a dude that's going to draw coverage. Like Brock is on an island.
Brutal.
He's the only playmaker in that offense. So it is very tough on him. There, he gets a lot of extra attention. I just think it's really tough for him to have big plays downfield for sure.
Myers is the one who eats because he's a good route runner. He gets open.
Yep,
that he eats. All right. Well, by the way, I think Miami will get their running game a little going here. Achane, I feel like for sure.
They've been running pretty well lately, for sure.
LA Rams at the Patriots here. It's kind of a must win for the Rams. Patriots, scrappy, play a lot of man. I would think that would probably bode well for Puka and Cooper Kupp here. What are you saying? And I don't even know what happened last week. I mean, that was a real egg they laid, really. Stafford and all that. I thought they were at a better place than what they showed last week.
Yeah, why I'm blanking on who they played. Why am I? It's the Dolphins. Yeah, they played the Dolphins.
The Dolphin game, yeah.
So the Dolphins defense has really come alive. Not to go back to them.
You got to give it credit to the day, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, they've come back. They figured out ways to manufacture some pass rush, so I think that's really helped the secondary there. But looking forward to this game. I think Puka's going to catch a Christian Gonzalez shadow. I think that's not great for Puka. Puka's a good player, and a lot of what he does is yak and just being tough, but Christian's tough too. I think Cooper Kupp is setting up for another monster game. I think
all right.
And Marcus Jones has probably been the most beatable guy in man there, and Kupp still leads the league in expected fantasy points, XFP, which is crazy.
Wow.
Still doing this. Crazy. So, if that volume sticks, I think he should have a big game.
Well, I was going to tweet out. I don't know if you saw him getting interviewed before the game. He had his hair all dangling, and I'm like, forget about the goat. He is a goat. He literally looked like a goat out there with his hair and the beard. But yeah, all right. That's a good call. That's a great call there. And Kyren, they had those O-line guys back last week, so maybe another weekend because, Kyren it was like 2 weeks ago, I finally waved the white flag. I'm like, all right, I was wrong about Kyren. And since then, he's been crap, kind of. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, it hasn't looked the same. I'm not sure getting the guys back that they got back helped. In fact, I would say it objectively didn't help. Now, they could be rusty. It's got to be that, right? There's no other explanation. If those are your starters, you'd think you'd get better. It's gotten worse.
Or maybe my analysis that he'll wear down is.
You are seeing that. The explosiveness doesn't look the same to me, for sure. So I think you're onto something there. This isn't necessarily the best matchup for him either. Patriots they're feisty in run defense, and actually since Drake May's taken over, the defense as a whole is playing better, and like not necessarily every single down, of course, but like they're off the field a lot more, so they're playing a little bit more rested. So I think that's helping.
Right. Ramondre is getting some volume here, and I think when I looked at this one initially, thinking maybe a Hunter Henry game. You know, the Rams have been really tough inside for Douglas. They're zone heavy. That's not good for Booty. So I'm thinking a little Hunter Henry this week. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm always down for some Hunter Henry. He looks good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not the tight end whisperer you are for sure, but you know, the Rams pass defense is soft. So
yeah,
they're going to sag back and play those weird zone coverages. We talk about it every week, right? So
I could see that. Yeah.
He's tailor-made for working in those zone windows and getting open. So
yeah, I like it. By the way, when we were a couple of games ago, I was going to just shout out myself because there is a tight end I missed a boat on, and this is egregious, really. But I will, in my defense, it's one of the most confusing situations of all time, and that is in fact Tucker Kraft. Like, I wasn't buying it until like 2 games ago, if that, and that's a bad move. I mean, the guy scored like what, 5 tutties in his last 6 or something.
Well, so, Musgrave being all the time is not helped,
right?
Because I was.
But you will admit that's a tough evaluation. You know, like who was screaming Tucker Kraft this summer? I guess a couple of people were.
Yeah, my guy Derek Brown's probably the only one I know of. But that's it. Like he was a Tucker truther, and I was a Musgrave guy, so he's one up on me in that debate for sure.
But it's also too like role like you. I mean, hey, I thought Tucker Kraft looked great last year too. I didn't think he was going to ascend to the top spot. You know what I mean? But anywho, I think we have some data that points to maybe Drake May running a lot. Well, I know what the data is. The Rams have a pretty good pass rush, and May takes off and runs. So we got that, right? Anything else? Nothing really stand out. Let's move on. Belabor that one. Browns, Saints. All right, here we go. This is it. Nick Chubb, let's go. This is it. Let's depart. Nicholas Chubb coming off the bye in the spot, Brett. I mean, I'll just keep it. I'll temper the expectations here and say he's going to run for 88 yards.
88, exactly. Okay.
Exactly 88 with a tutty.
88 with a tutty. All right, I like that.
It's a good spot, though, right? I mean, he's averaging 2.5 yards a carry, so he's going to need like 400 carries to get there. But no, but you know, what do you think here? Is just 2 weeks not enough, or you know, maybe he was a little rusty? It is a good matchup.
Yeah, no, it's a great matchup. The Saints probably the bottom 5 run defense in the league. I know raw totals don't necessarily say that, but if you look at the efficiency stuff, they give up a lot on the ground. So, it's a great matchup for them. I would say that the Browns O-line has played better as well since Winston's taken over. Winston's not holding the ball for 19 seconds of play, so that's good. So I definitely think this is a good matchup for Chubb.
And also, said Tillman against a guy I'd never heard of 2 weeks ago, Shamar Jean-Charles, and then Ugo Amadi, Alontae Taylor. I think he's good, but these other, it's like, who are these people? I like Tillman. We have some data that says good things about Elijah Moore. I don't know where this leaves Njoku.
So Elijah would be my guy in this game for this week. Just a quick note, New Orleans has been awful against slot targets this season, giving up 9.16 yards per attempt, which ranks 30th in the NFL. And since Jameis Winston has taken over, Elijah Moore leads the Browns in target share, and he runs about 70% of his routes from the slot. So, his numbers on the year haven't been great, but New Orleans has given up at least 50 yards per game to slot receivers the last 5 weeks. With the connection Elijah and Jameis have, it just seems like a really good fit for Elijah to be his guy again this week. And then because they've been so soft, I think it probably yields more than 50 yards.
Yeah. Not the greatest matchup for Kamara, though, with the Browns, giving up the third fewest schedule-adjusted fantasy points per game to running backs. Kamara does a lot of his work in zone concepts, and the Browns have allowed the fourth lowest success rate there. So this might be another game where we got to get it done in the passing attack. Otherwise, I give up on the Saints. I feel like if I go in on MVS this week, he's guaranteed catching 2 balls for 12.
I liked what I saw, though. I know people are just cringing here.
I know.
I liked what I saw. He had a great average separation score this week. So
I can't wait to see it. It's a double-ended. Basically, it's an anti-Gurite connection between two completely volatile flash players who are arguably the most annoying at their position over the last 5 years in the NFL for fantasy, because they have these huge games and they go disappear. I mean, I can't wait to see it. Get your popcorn ready.
Carr and MVS?
Carr to MVS is like, that's as annoying as it gets.
Yep. I feel you on that. Carr is the ultimate boomer bust. So
exactly. Just when I said after week 2, when everyone was talking about it, I was like, it's a trap. I wasn't even totally sure about it, but I said it anyway because it's Derek Carr. Well, Indy Colts and the Jets. Let's get your thoughts on I just have this gut feeling that Richardson is going to, play a little bit better, be a little bit more settled down. Maybe they told him, look, don't look over your shoulder. You're good. We're going to ride with you, sink or swim with you. I think he'll run quite a bit, maybe even in this game. And I guess just avoid making really bad throws and decisions.
That's all he needs to do, because the Jets' run defense is bottom 2 in the league. Their last 5 games, they've given up 147, 187, 112, 149, 149, and 10 touchdowns over that span. So they're getting nuked on the ground. So as long as Richardson doesn't make mistakes, he's involved in the run game. I like both him and John Taylor this week. I kind of staying away from the receivers for now, though, so we kind of see what Richardson likes as he gets out there. Although Josh Downs has really turned some heads. His target rate has been through the roof lately. So, just how many valuable targets is he going to get from Richardson is the question.
There is the Jets being a little bit of a deep passing game funnel, allowing the 8th most receiving yards per game on throws traveling 20 yards or more. I never said a bad thing about A.D. Mitchell, but I never said a good thing, because I didn't think he was going to have this significant role. But dude does look good out there, like real good. So, I mean, he could – I'll mark it here. A.D. Mitchell or our guy Pierce is making a big air yard play in this one. I'm feeling it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Now, can Richardson put it on him? That's the question. But Mitchell looks awesome. He's 5th in average separation score this against single high coverage this year. He averages 0.42 targets and 3.2 yards per route run against single high. The dude needs more reps. It's crazy that it took a Michael to get him on the field, because he looks awesome. So
he's got like an old school vibe to me. I don't know why. He just reminds me of a 90s receiver or something, pretty slick and all that. And a very underreported story line with the Jets is they're about ready to waste a peak year for frickin' Breece Hall.
They stink.
They stink.
You asked me about them the other day. We didn't get to talk about it on your show, but the Jets' offense is like completely dead. And I think I figured out why. They're no explosives. Breece Hall hasn't had a carry over 16 yards since week 2. Or sorry, he's had 1 carry over 16 yards since week 2. And then they rank 16th in explosive pass plays. But think about how crazy that is. They rank 5th in attempts, and they have Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, and Devontae Adams, and they rank 16th in explosive pass rate. That is insane. Yeah. It's like the offense is tedious. It's like every drive is a 10, 12, 14 play drive for a field goal. It's like, miss me with this. This offense is terrible. It's kind of funny to watch. I get joy from watching them.
Yeah, I keep thinking this should be it for Rodgers, but I guess he said today it's not going to be. I keep thinking of myself playing softball when I was 46, thinking that I could do things that I could do when I was 26, but I couldn't do it. But I thought it. Is that you see any of that?
Yeah, it's like me going to Vegas every year to compete in jiu-jitsu worlds and then losing in the first round. That's what that is.
But man, you said Breece doesn't get the explosives because he doesn't get the ball. Like
Yeah.
You got to feed a guy like that the ball, and the big plays will come, like Frank Gore. You know what I mean? It's one of the
Yeah,
reasons why you kept feeding him the rock.
for sure. What's crazy too is Braylon Allen has more explosives because
I know.
he's gotten the ball in more favorable situations. He's got a few 3rd and 10 explosives this year, but
Yeah.
gosh, what's funny too is the Jets' offensive line on paper hasn't been bad in the run game. I think they're averaging in the last 4 weeks 2.18 yards before contact per carry. So like they've been decent. They got to stick with it though.
Well, I mean, this is a pretty good matchup for their offense. Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I mean, this thing's going to be a bonanza. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, I like the George Pickens side of things a little bit more than the Zay Flowers. But if you could pick only one in this game for DFS or whatever, which way you going there, George or Zay?
I'm gonna go Zay.
Whoa! Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough call because on one hand you have the Ravens pass defense, which has given up, 82 explosive pass plays this year. That's like 21 more than the next worst defense. So you would think Pickens explosive pass plays, that's kind of his thing, right? I do feel like the Ravens have tightened it up a little bit since they moved Humphrey back to the slot full time. They've got the rookie from Clemson, Nate Wiggins, playing at outside corner now. He's been an upgrade, in my opinion. It's allowed their safety, Kyle Hamilton, to kind of be back to roaming the field and not necessarily playing in one-on-one coverage a lot. So I think it's helped them. And then on the flip side, Zay's role, other than the one game recently, is just, it seems fairly locked in. You know, and then in a game 2 where you have a really good like the Steelers have the best 4-man rush in the NFL. Look at the average time to throw against them. Quarterbacks know it's good. They're just getting rid of the ball. Like they're not even trying to pass the ball downfield. So I think that plays right into Zay's hand. We're going to do a lot of short passes. Maybe Isaiah Likely gets back in the mix. Is he playing? Is he healthy?
I know he has a chance to play. That's, I'm sure, going to come down to Friday.
Gotcha.
I think he was limited.
Yeah, if he does play, they love him on these short, dump offs when they're facing a good pass rush. But if he's not playing, that just means more for Zay.
And maybe not a great spot for Bateman this week. I mean,
nope.
He could get the Porter treatment on the outside and, give up, maybe not the big play week here. How do you think the Steelers will react to Henry? I feel like you can run on Pittsburgh.
It depends what Pittsburgh decides to do. Sometimes, so that we've seen a mixed bag this year. So sometimes they are very confident in their front's ability to get it done without help from a safety. And so they'll take that approach. Other times, they'll come stack the box. So I would imagine you're going to see a lot of, early down single high stuff where they're bringing Minka up into the box and letting him, contribute to the run defense plan here. So, I mean, with the way Baltimore plays heavy personnel too, like they're in 21 and 12 more than any team in the NFL, 22 as well. Even I think that's going to bring an extra linebacker or even defensive lineman on the field for Pittsburgh. Go back to the old school odd front 3-4 defense. I think you're going to see a lot of that this week. So, I'm not saying that necessarily means anything as far as stopping Henry, but I think that's how they'll react to it at least.
There could be a little struggle ball situation with the Steelers offense because Baltimore's run D is elite. And I don't know if you saw, but Jalen Warren popped up today with a DNP. I'll check to see if it's the knee. And then Najee was a full go, of course, because, Najee, he's from 1988. He plays every week. I mean, I saw a DNP. People were like panicking DNP for Najee. I'm like, DNP for Najee on a Wednesday? Please. He's like, brushes that right off. He's like, I'm good. Full go. But, if their running game gets shut down, that could be a little problem, don't you think?
Yeah, it could be for sure. The thing too with Baltimore is they don't have a great pass rush. I think they're like bottom 5 in pressure rate over expectation. Actually, look at their time to pressure numbers too. That's also bottom 5. So if you're not getting ahead of the chains on early downs, you're letting Baltimore develop a strength out of something they're not good at, right? So they have to get ahead of the chains to keep that pass rush where it is. So
Yeah.
And that's going to be tough. Jalen Warren should get a good run in this game because I don't think some of that early down, bang between the tackle stuff with Najee is going to work as well. I would like to see them try to generate some explosives with Jalen Warren.
But he was added today. It was a back that
Warren?
he was a
Oh,
DMP
no.
today. Yeah.
We just
So
got him back.
I know. And he looked pretty good last week. Najee, man, he got jacked up. I don't even know. I thought it was like a concussion or something, but I don't know if you saw that, but
Yeah,
I know you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got walloped and then just kind of bounced back up and ended up being fine, I guess. So
yeah, but he didn't do crap after that. I'll tell you that. He got like 5 because I had a damn prop. I was watching every carry. He got stonewalled, but I don't know if it was the injury or not. But yeah, that'll be interesting. But I mean, we're expecting a lot of points, so yeah, we'll probably get it. I'll be disappointed if we don't, but. Lot of stars in that game for sure. Well, not as many for Pittsburgh. Not many in this one. Minnesota at Tennessee. And Darnold, Darnold. You've been saying it all year. I kind of let it go, but now it's kind of, it's kind of every week, right? I mean, Sam Darnold is a backup quarterback, period. So
yeah, you're seeing it. You're seeing why he's been a journeyman so far and why he didn't stick with the team that drafted him, third overall? So, or second overall even. Yeah, it's tough. It was the Green Bay game, John, where I noticed it in the second half. He went back to deer in headlights, turnover machine, sack taking machine. So, thankfully for him, Tennessee's pass rush isn't amazing. So, like, maybe he'll have, some more time to operate back there this week without, getting pressured a lot. So, but man, it's been ugly for him.
They're respectable. I keep looking at Jordan Addison. If I'm Jordan Addison, I want out. I don't know what it is, man. Like, this guy's a number 1 pick, guys. You got to get him more than 2 catches a game. Like, what the hell's going on out here? I know they got Hawkinson back. He looks great. He really did. It's a shame. The Darisaw injury. It's like, what a buzzkill. But Jones should do, relatively well as long as they want him out there. Can't use Addison. Hawkinson's in. Jefferson. Will Levis, your thoughts? I mean, I did see he was a pretty good schematic matchup, but I don't know. Probably not Calvin Ridley this week. The too high shell stuff was a little scary with Ridley, right? He gets a pretty good reduction there under too high.
Yeah, he does in a normal too high setting. I wouldn't call what the Vikings do normal, though, because it's so much sim pressure, that double, A mug looks they do, the line up and overload looks as well. So their point being, they crowd the line of scrimmage. So there is still a ton of room to operate over the middle of the field. So, like, can Calvin Ridley do something with it? I think he for sure can.
He can, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks good.
They're going to give you a lot of zero coverage looks too, which, he's going to get one-on-one with a guy on the outside. It's technically too high, right? But it's middle of the field open still.
They're going to him. They're going to him,
for sure. And he looks better since the Lions game, actually. He's really come alive.
He does look good.
Yeah.
No, he really does. He's playing with some pop, some energy. He's running well. I feel like our guy Tajay Spears is going to start coming on here. Not a good matchup at all for Pollard. He does a lot of his stuff against man and gap, and the Vikes have allowed the fewest YPC to those concepts, lowest success rate. That's it. Nothing else going on. Remember Chiggy Okonkwo? We haven't talked about him in 9 weeks. I mean, it's weird. There's nothing else going on there. Atlanta, so Denver. Yeah, it's sad. Atlanta, Denver. We have a lot going on here. We have, in your opinion, it's like, oh, great. Drake London is usually good. I don't think this year, but usually good against man, but not that man. Pat Surtain. I think we're going to get a shout out treatment there for London.
Yeah, I think so. Surtain's pretty consistently, shadowed. He's even gone into the slot a little bit recently, which is crazy. So,
whoa.
Yeah, and I know the Falcons will try to hide Drake there. I'm curious to see how much Pat follows him there. I think his slot rate's up to like 9% on the year though, which is kind of crazy. Yeah,
it is 9. Yeah,
is it 9? Okay, I don't like this for Drake at all, obviously for that reason. But here's the thing: didn't Mooney just pop up with an injury today? Achilles something.
Oh, that I didn't see
not a
that.
he's questionable, I believe, for the game. So
oh, That's not good.
Yeah. So then that tells me it's going to be Kyle Pitts. If
yeah.
you're getting the shadow on London and Mooney's down or limited with an Achilles, and you're getting a lot of man coverage, yeah, Kyle Pitts has got to go win against those safeties and linebackers. That's obviously Denver's weakest point of their defense as well. So I'm firing up Kyle Pitts week officially.
Oh yeah. I didn't see that popped up today. Achilles. We also have some data, by the way, which wasn't amazing for Mooney against single high. Against single high. But for Pitts, sees a 93% boost to his yard per route run against single high. There you go. That's good. Also, though, not a good schematic for Bijan, but I did already get on. Well, I didn't get on it yet, actually. The receiving prop, because Denver seeds one of the highest target shares to opposing running backs. But Bijan's look great, but I guess not a great schematic for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's really hard to run on Denver, but they give up a ton of points. Most fantasy schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed in the pass game to running backs. And Bijan looks awesome. We did our mid-season all-pro teams on the First Read podcast, and I didn't pick Bijan on my team, but he was my honorable mention because what he's doing in the pass game right now is so impressive. I know the volume isn't necessarily amazing, blow your socks off, but the tape is awesome. Like dude is winning one-on-ones, great after the catch. So this is a good opportunity for him to catch a lot of balls. Especially again, if you're getting London locked up and Mooney's limited, they're going to have to throw somewhere, and we know they like to throw the ball. So
he is his whole season can be edited down, and you could refer to it as a commercial for this is why you draft young stud running backs as early as 1. I don't care, 0 running back, forget it. Throughout that entire era, if a guy like Bijan Robinson or Breece Hall comes across my desk and they're 23 years old, whatever, 22, I'm like, I'm taking that dude, like, period. Anywho, this is the Week 11 edition of Matchup Points here at FantasyPoints.com. That is Brett Whitefield. I'm John Hansen. Our guy Tommy T-Bone on the other side, and we're about on track here. We do have a few more games to go, and then we'll call it a wrap. But for Denver, Audric Estime, I've been saying it for about 6 weeks. It's probably happening. I feel like he's taken over. I feel like he'll do a little bit better than Javonte, but I don't know about Estime in the passing game. But your thought? Any thoughts on Bo Nix, where we're at? Cortland Sutton this week. I mean, are you worried about AJ Terrell? It seems like a decent, well, actually not a decent schematic for Bo Nix. I have no idea how to predict or project Bo Nix, so help me.
I don't either, John. And AJ Terrell, I've repeatedly said that he's one of the shadow guys that doesn't scare me a whole lot, but it is Cortland Sutton. It's like he's not a very gifted route runner as it is, but everything Sutton does is mostly contested anyway. So does a shadow really matter? I don't know. I'm
fluky,
man. Right. I'm battling all these thoughts in my head. Also with Nix, for me, the fantasy output is kind of contingent on how much they're going to dial up some run stuff. He's been a sneaky good runner this year.
Yeah,
I think his best games, from a production standpoint, and even just from an offense as a whole, moving the chains and scoring touchdowns. That's been when Bo Nix is unlocked as a runner. So, you want to see them get back to that a little bit, right? So, I don't know how to project him though. And as far as Estime, I like Estime. He's got a ridiculous amount of lateral quickness for his size. I think maybe that's why he could be a nice change of pace to Javonte, who's more explosive downhill physical runner, where Estime's got a little more wiggle, even though they're roughly the same size player.
And really quick, between the Saints and Broncos and Sean Payton's last 2 stops, like the skank at receiver, it's like, please stop. Can you guys get some really good players? It's so bad. I'm sorry, little Jordan Humphrey. Come on, man. Marvin Mims, I thought he was going to actually be all right. But anyways, let's go to Seattle, San Fran. And we were talking about Ricky. But you're more impressed by Juwan Jennings. Is Juwan Jennings the new number 1 receiver in San Francisco?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I've gone as far to say as I think Juwan Jennings is a legit league winner type in season-long leagues. He's awesome. So His target share on the season is 26.8%. In 11 personnel,
huge.
sorry, 26.8%.
Okay.
Since Ayuk has been hurt, that target share has gone up to 32%, 40% in 11 personnel. They run 11 personnel about 50% of the time, and they pass 74% of the time out of it. So like these are monster target share numbers. The air yard share in the offense is 32% as well since Ayuk's gone down. Just amazing usage, and he looks awesome. I think he's what, eighth overall in average separation score. He can win versus man. And what's funny is until the Ayuk injury, he was kind of one of their zone beaters, more big slot, in the hole in zone. Well, now he's out there beating man at a super high rate. So what can't Juwan do? I don't know, but he looks awesome. And just the volume is so good. It's like he's basically was free. Like he wasn't drafted in any leagues, right? So
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I do like what we've seen from Pretty Ricky so far. I think as the season goes on, you'll see his role grow for sure. But man, I can't say enough about Juwan Jennings.
So Juwan is not just coming in there as the slot, getting the best matchup and taking advantage of that.
No, they're moving him all over the place now. So he was primarily
because he was doing that. He was doing that late last year. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. And most of his usage until the Ayuk injury was as a primary big slot guy. Like think Anquan Bolden type, just big kind of methodical player, yards after catch. Well, now they're moving him all over. He's playing outside more than he's playing in the slot, actually. So I think he's 65% outside now the last few weeks. So man, he is their number one guy as a receiver right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where the hell I ranked him this year on my top 200 sheet. I mean, it's a lot of names, but anyway, no one cares about it while we do this podcast. But yeah, I mean, what jumps out against Seattle? Anything of note? I mean, Jennings, you're kind of in every week. Anything else? By the way, actually, I have something for you. I thought McCaffrey looked a little blah as a runner, but it could be a little rusty. It could have been, whatever. But any thoughts on what you saw in McCaffrey as a runner? I saw a little, maybe missing a gear.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It kind of expected coming back from a double Achilles tendon situation. I think he looked like he had more pop in the pass game.
For sure.
Caught a couple dumped. Maybe it's a confidence thing where he's catching a dump off and he's got space in front of him, so he feels a little more confident hitting top gear.
Yeah. Well, he's capable of it.
Yeah. As a runner, he definitely either looked timid or not as explosive. One of the two. I guess I need to watch some more tape to figure out what I really think there. But this week should tell us a lot because Seattle's going to sit back and play some too high, and they'll give McCaffrey some chances to run. There's a lot, honestly. I think Purdy's been targeting the slot in general a ton lately, whether that's Debo, Kittle, or Jennings. They all have like a 0.25% target share from the slot, and you're gonna see the Seattle just gives up points in droves to the slot. So I think it's a really good matchup for them to exploit.
Well, George, we'll see with the hammy too.
True.
What was the deal today with George? I don't even see it in front of me. I'm guessing probably a no, but that's a big injury to check in on. But you know what? I'm not going to say they could go without George, but last week actually they supported technically like 5 receivers in fantasy. With Ricky, Debo, Jennings, I guess 4. Who am I missing? But yeah, I don't know if we could expect that every week, but man, Purdy's been really good this year. I think other than maybe 1.5 poor, maybe 6 bad quarters, Purdy's been awesome.
Yep, he's been good. He gets away with a little bit. He's got a lot of ball winners, Kittle, even Jennings, Ayuk when he was healthy, guys that can go get it. He's willing to put it up to him. So he gets away with a little bit, but yeah, he's impressed me for sure.
Oh yeah, it was 5. Duh. Jennings, Pearsall, Debo, Kittle, freaking McCaffrey. I mean, that's somewhat rare. And where are we with Geno? It looks like we're gonna get DK back. You could talk about that, but Geno to me is not happening here in this offense, quite frankly. Do you think Ken Walker will catch some balls here? But your thoughts on Seattle?
It's hard not to like Geno from a volume standpoint, right? Because they lead the NFL in pass rate over expectation at like plus 10%, which takes into account down and distance and score differential. So in a game, you expect them to probably be playing from behind. You would assume Geno's going to, throw the ball all over the place.
6.5 point underdogs.
Yeah, 6.5 point underdogs. If DK is healthy and a full go, he's going to be the main target. That's what they're going to do against San Francisco. If not, JSN has gotten a massive uptick in target share since DK's been hurt. So, but yeah, Geno looks bad, but they just keep throwing the ball. I don't understand their reluctance to just rely on Kenneth Walker and even Sharps to an extent. Like, it's frustrating because they're putting Geno in all these 3rd and 10s, and it doesn't look pretty. But man, you're not doing your quarterback any favors. Yeah.
I'm wondering how much of that is Walker out there bouncing stuff early downs and put him in long distance. Who knows? I don't know. By the way, Noah Fant is still hurt apparently, even though they were off last week with a groin. So that's another issue there. Yeah, I don't really trust him, but yeah, I definitely trust DK and JSN for sure. Let's go to KC Buffalo. Looks like another big day for Kareem Hunt in the passing game, perhaps, or just in general. Kelsey, maybe not. There's some data that was not great on Kelsey. And I kind of feel like D-Hop will have a little bit of a better game there. Your thoughts on KC's offense here?
Yeah, you mentioned Kareem Hunt. That's the exploitive matchup here. The Bills' run defense has been super leaky. Especially against good teams. They've had some great performances against bad teams, but man, I can't get the Baltimore tape out of my head. They just got just bludgeoned. Both Miami games, they got bludgeoned. So I don't know. I think Kareem Hunt is the focal point still, and then in the pass game, it should be all D-Hop. They're using D-Hop on the outside more than they are in the slot right now, and the one guy you want to avoid in the Bills secondary is Taron Johnson. So.
Yeah.
I would imagine they're going to keep D-Hop on the outside. Worthy's been getting more of a slot role. So I really do like D-Hop in this matchup. I think Kelsey, obviously, he's going to have a role too. The Bills, that zone coverage is going to give him a lot of openings.
Sure.
He always does well against the Bills, actually. So.
Yeah, that is true. He absolutely destroyed him last year. I love our guy Khalil Shakir here. The Chiefs have been a little bit of a slot funnel. What about Amari Cooper? Does he get the travel McDuffie on his ass?
Yeah, I don't love Cooper, especially if he's going to be limited at all. Let me rap about our guy Shakir really quick. Just some data points to throw at the listeners here. KC is the 3rd highest rate of too high, 61.3%. Since week 7 versus too high, Khalil Shakir has a 30% target rate and a 40.5% first read share, that'd be tops in the NFL. So like this is insane volume for one of our guys here. And it seems like the acquisition of Cooper, the development of Coleman has kind of unlocked Shakir. He has a more consistent role. His production's coming up actually. So I think he's a player that could really hit his stride down the stretch here. Big on Shakir this week, especially, and they have to throw the ball. Coleman's going to miss. Cooper might miss or be limited. Dalton Kincaid's out. You can make a case for Dawson Knox as a skank tight end option here, but
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I love how you've adopted skank. I'm here for it. Yeah, Kincaid probably not going to play the game, so even better for Khalil Shakir. Yep. Yeah, and then Kelsey with the too high, but yeah, you're right. He does crush them. Maybe it'd be like an 8-catch game for like 49 yards. Let's move on to Cincinnati at LA. I love this game. I'm all about it. I am all in. I'm even in on Will Dissly. All right. But I tell you who I'm not in on, though, is our guy Ladd McConkey. Just the mere Mike Hilton is. I'm a Marriott guy. I might have to change it up to Hilton because Hilton's been balling this year. But your thoughts on the LA Chargers here?
Disley was the one guy I wrote up to specifically talk about on this show. What's crazy is the Chargers have come off of this typical Harbaugh Roman run first offense stuff. They've been throwing the ball a ton, and Herbert's. I think his last 4 passing outings have been his best 4, and Disley, this is going to shock everyone. He's been the heaviest targeted player on the Chargers over that stretch. 23.3% target share on the season now. He's averaging 2.14 yards per route run. This is a really sneaky tight end play, I guess, the rest of the season, apparently, because he's tearing it up. And the Bengals are giving up, 9 yards a target to inline tight ends. And Disley runs most of his routes from inline. So this is just a great schematic matchup for Disley, plus the mixture of him just being the main guy in the passing offense. It's just kind of weird to say out loud, obviously, but that's just the reality of where we're at right now. So, man, I love Disley. I do think
a lot of check down stuff, though, right? Like kind of a check down.
It reminds me a lot of what Jake Ferguson does in Dallas, what Dalton Schultz does in Houston. Obviously, both all three big white guys. So I guess that makes sense. He's always been a blocking first tight end, and now he's his passing role, and he looks fine doing it. I think they have clear roles for all their guys now too, which has really helped the pass offense. Ladd has his role, Palmer and QJ, they all got their roles, and I think it's really helped unlock some consistency here, unlike what the Packers are doing in Green Bay.
Well, we got one white tight end who might not be in business is Gesicki, by the way, because it looks like T. Higgins is going to play. That will be interesting. Does that completely remove? I mean, it's not going to remove Gesicki, but I guess it just cuts him down enough to where it's a suspect tight end play, I guess.
Yeah, something they like to do with Gesicki is they'll pin all their wide receivers out wide, kind of like a spread look with Gesicki in the slot, and they'll just have him run the seam, and they'll give him a nice seam ball for 30 yards. They'll catch a couple of those, and you feel nice and good about his production profile. With T-back, I'm just not sure how the target distribution will look. Every time T is on the field, he Chase and T both get unlocked, so it's fun. Although Chase went off last week without T, so what do I know?
Yeah, for sure. I kind of, if you need him, like maybe even a Josh Palmer. He's playing all right out there. I actually liked him this summer as a 11th round pick. Palmer. He hasn't been worthless for like 6 weeks now, but yeah. And Burrow, it's weird, man. Like the vibes are really weird with the Bengals. Yet if Burrow is like balling, right? Is this the best Burrow's ever been, or any thoughts there?
I'm a Burrow guy. There's always this Burrow versus Herbert debate, ironically, because they're playing each other. There's a lot of film bros that love Herbert because he's got the rocket arm, and I've always been a Burrow guy. So,
okay. Me too. I was a Burrow guy, big time.
Yeah, if he could just keep himself a little cleaner and not take these ridiculous hits and stay healthy, that would go a long way with him. But he's balling right now, man. Like if they go on a run and make the playoffs, I think he's a sneaky MVP candidate.
And then finally, Houston at Dallas. Looks like we're going to get Nico back. Joe Mixon to the moon. Cowboys, I mean, they're playing for pride already. I kind of like CD. I really do. I mean, I know it's ugly, but when I say I like CD to catch like 8 balls for like 64. You know what I mean? And have a solid day. But what do you see in this game?
Yeah, I don't mind CD at all. Houston, you got to imagine they're going to come out and try to make this a statement game after the way they lost on Sunday Night Football. Is Kamara Lassiter, I think, might miss too, right? He's concussed, so that could be a thing.
Short week.
Yeah, short. No, they're playing Monday night, right?
Oh, right.
But CD,
he was injured in a somewhat shorter week, right? Last Sunday night.
They played Sunday night. Yeah. CD, the patterns with his usage have been so weird. Like he's had games where he's primarily played outside, then he's had games where he's primarily in the slot. I think with Houston's best cornerback being Jalen Petrie, their slot corner, I would imagine you're going to see CD on the outside a little bit more, which could help him, to your point, get to that prop total you're talking about here, 8 for 64.
But Petrie also does. I mean, by the numbers, he's not like he gives up numbers. I mean, there's numbers attached to him.
Yeah, you talking about the fantasy points per coverage snap?
Yeah,
per route run. So that's kind of the nature of Houston, and they'll play this drop coverage where they're giving up stuff underneath and come up and make tackles. So he gives up a lot of catches, which again plays into your point with CD. 8 for 64. I think that's perfect.
See, this is what I'm saying. Like I know this without knowing the data. Somehow it's in my head. Somehow this is what I'm saying. Like this is why I love all this data stuff, because it's like I kind of knew that. I couldn't articulate it, but I kind of knew that. But all right, well, and then I guess we'll hope for the best with Jake Ferguson. Hope he can catch 5 for 29. You know, I mean, at this point, because Cooper Rush looked pretty bad, and then I guess Trey Lance, I guess, is just hopeless.
He must just be awful in practice. I can't understand.
He must be.
Oh, like, he can't get snaps over Cooper Rush, man. That is crazy. Now, I think they have a soft spot for Cooper because he went 5-0 for them as a starter like a year ago or 2 years ago. Remember what
2 years ago?
Run he had? Yeah. It wasn't pretty, but he went 5-0. I mean, so
he was all right with CD. He did not kill CD.
True. So I think they might have a little soft spot for him. I would imagine at some point though they got to get Lance on the field. This is crazy talk.
It really is. Like I was drawing some parallels to Jordan Love. You know, like if Jordan Love played as a rookie, he may have looked like Trey Lance.
That's a good point.
I'm like, if it took 3 years. Like, let's not give up on the guy. He's like 24 years old. But I was saying that a year ago or so. But I must admit, I'm about ready to give up. But yeah. Anyways, that'll wrap it up. Right on time, I guess. Hour and 10 minutes. I was a little disheveled today. I'm on not a lot of sleep for some reason. But thanks for tuning in as always. We were lost without Graham Barfield. We had one field. What are we going to do? One field. We need two. We thank Tommy T-Bone, Thomas Tipple as well. Good luck in week 11. Check out all the other offerings here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page. We're dying. I'm begging you over here. Throw us a bone. And thanks for watching the week 11 edition of Matchup Points here at FantasyPoints.com.
What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.